Hi, I'm Kristen Davis, and I want to know, are you a Charlotte? Molly Rogers is here, you guys. Yay! I have been dying to have Molly on since we began this podcast. Molly is the most special person that you guys will meet, okay? And she's been with us since the very, very beginning. I mean, not the pilot. Scratch that. The almost very beginning.
Right. The pilot was someone else who went on to do The Sopranos.
No way. I didn't realize she went on to do The Sopranos.
They were on the same floor with us.
Right.
Second floor, Silver Cup.
Right. That's interesting. Well, she did such a fantastic job on The Sopranos.
And polar opposite from the four of you.
Well, that was meant to be then. That was meant to be for her.
Sure.
And she was lovely. It just wasn't exactly the right fit. Now, let's discuss. That's a good jumping off point to discuss. First of all, how did you come to be working with the illustrious Pat Field at the time? Tell us the background.
Okay. It's a kind of, I can do it in a short way also because I've told the story so many times. And Pat herself loves to watch me and listen to me tell it. I was living in London after I graduated from Carolina, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I decided I needed to get out of England because I wasn't really legal. And I came to New York on Friday the 13th, 1984.
Wow.
And walked into Pat's store, famous store on 8th Street. And she was in there with a French stylist named Mary Paul, and they were choosing rubber bracelets, 1984, for Madonna.
Oh, my God. Which, of course, we all know Madonna's rubber bracelets.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I walked up to Pat, and I was wearing a paper dress.
Oh, my.
And Boy George dreadlocks.
Wow.
And I asked her for a job. And
how bold.
We began our trek in styling and being friends, and working in her store led to, that was huge. 84 was big MTV videos.
Sure.
So we styled, and that led to commercials, and that led to TV, and just have known her and been a friend of hers forever.
And did you work on the film that she did with Sarah Jessica in Miami?
No, I was down here at the same time doing a television show called Moon Over Miami. So I didn't get to work on that. And I was so jealous because I remember the day that they were shooting something on the beach with Naomi Campbell. Ooh. And I was like, Pat's working with supermodels.
I love it. So then how did you hear about the show, not the pilot, I guess, because I don't even think that we asked Pat to do the pilot.
No.
Right.
I remember Pat throwing some script at me and saying, read this. I think it's really interesting. No, did Candace have a book out?
Yeah, definitely. The book Sex and the City, yeah.
I think if that was at that time, I feel like Pat had read the paperback and was like, this is going to be outrageous.
Wow, smart Pat.
And the first time we met, Pat went and talked. Pat took a dominatrix book that I had to her meeting with Darren.
I love it.
To show him pictures of serious high heels and things.
Wow.
And it was very S&M. I was like, you're going to scare him off.
But you didn't know Darren yet, right? So you didn't really know. Darren, I don't think he's that scarable. But I mean, I also think that is such a good indication of kind of the interesting kind of mismatch of television and Pat, which actually really benefited the show, obviously.
Absolutely. It's just so interesting because, and when I often think about the influences in those early years where, we just had no money and we were working on Saturdays and it was so crazy, I realized how much we drew from being out all the time. We went out, we were downtown people.
Right.
And we saw those characters and we were always big high heel, it just, it was a natural inspiration from just being social.
Amazing. Amazing. That's so interesting. Now, so take me back to coming to New York with Pat to do the beginning of the series when we got picked up for the first season.
Well, I don't know. I know you'll understand this. But the first time we met Sarah Jessica was at Pat's apartment, which was above the store on 8th Street. It had rubber floors that after parties she would like kind of hose down and with sticky liquor or whatever.
I'm sure. Don't want to know more.
Like, let's show SJ just a few little ideas. So we had Rebecca and Pat and I. Rebecca was Pat's girlfriend at the time,
Yes.
as you remember.
Yes, I do.
We went to Ina, who had a consignment store in Soho.
Oh, Ina.
Yeah, and pulled a few things, which we still do for you. We still go there.
Love it so much.
And we showed Sarah Jessica the fur coat.
Oh, you had it right then.
Yeah, the burgundy clutch purse, which I believe she paired on the show with the fur coat, and some little mules that were plastic. And I remember, I've kept a diary all my life, and I remember writing in my diary that Pat and Sarah Jessica were so excited because they were going to not wear pantyhose.
Aha, that was a major, major point.
I don't think people understand that.
No, I don't think people remember that. Number one, you always had to wear them previous. Like for me in Melrose Land and just Los Angeles in general, like that was a normal thing. And obviously in South Carolina where I grew up, I mean, of course you wore pantyhose, right? Which is what we called them back then. And then I remember Pat just like, no. And just being like, oh my God. And in the beginning, when I'm rewatching, obviously I hadn't remembered a lot of this, but I've got hose on a couple times. And I'm like, Pat must have been so mad at me.
That's so funny. I'm glad that you understand where that's coming from, because it was kind of like not a requirement, but women just wore it. And Pat and Sarah Jessica were talking about bare legs.
Yep.
Even in winter.
Oh, I know. I remember those days. I remember those cold days, which actually this episode that we're watching, which we don't have to talk about right now, but it's one of those episodes where when you remember when we would come back to work in February and it would be like so cold, but we had to pretend it was spring because that was when the show would come on. And so we're in the bare legs and we've got either the fur episode that Pat would try to get all of us in furs, and then the light coat episode, and then like the lighter coat episode. So you're watching it all unfold, and like, you know how we cross board, right? So like when I watched 105, there are leaves on the trees. And I'm thinking, oh, thank God it's finally spring. Then 106, there's no leaves on the trees. And we look like we are freezing. Like I feel like my teeth are chattering like one scene, which I very much remember. But it was always just a tightrope walk. And I remember Pat like, no, nothing on your legs. And you just be like, no, nothing, please.
Because I remember some things. I remember when I watch those episodes as well, I see scenes on Madison Avenue or somewhere, and it just looks like such a bitter spring day.
Yes.
At 7 a.m. or something.
Yes. But also I feel like, do you remember was there, did you all know the extent to which you were changing how costume was done on television? I mean, we were on HBO, so that was a little different, but did you know the extent to which you were, paving new roads?
I mean, I love telling that story. It's a good example of what you're asking. There were little clues. I love telling that story of when an HBO executive came into the wardrobe room to do a little rack review by themselves. Looked at these jeans that were from Japan for Carrie, and she was like, no one is going to understand these in Kansas. And Pat kicked her out.
Excellent. Excellent. I mean, also, were we making television for Kansas and I didn't know it?
Exactly.
I don't know that we were trying to do that. But then also, who would have ever expected us to have such wide success? We certainly did not expect that in the beginning.
True. And it wasn't until I want to say the third season, that people started warming to us in the fashion industry, because when you went into a showroom and said, we're working on a show called Sex in the City, they were like, what is it, porno?
I
They
know.
just didn't know. And
Right.
once people started watching it, things started coming in.
Right, but for 2 whole seasons, we didn't have that so much,
No.
right? So that's also
We thought that-
interesting when I look back, because my clothes are just really just weird, okay? The first season, I'm just thinking, what on earth? Which I know some of it was that, I didn't really understand Pat, right? And I was confused how I was going to fit into Pat's vision. And I think Pat maybe was figuring out her vision for Charlotte, and it took some time.
Sure.
But also, that picture, it's one of my favorite pictures of us. It's from first season, which I didn't realize. We're on the street. I think Craig Blankenhorn, our amazing set photographer, took it. We're on the street. It's the middle of the night. We're on like 6th Avenue. And I've got a leather coat on, I think. We've got like wool coats and turtlenecks, and we're looking off in the distance. All 4 of us look like we're in our own clothes in a way. It's interesting.
Oh my gosh.
It's really interesting.
I want to see that picture.
I'll send it to you.
We only ever went to Bloomingdale's because of our budget, and Century 21.
Amazing.
I want to ask you something. I've always wondered if you remembered when all of you had your dressing rooms on the stage.
Yes, of course I remember that.
Do you remember that? Okay.
Yes.
I always wondered if.
Of course, that was for many, many years at Silver Cup. What I also remember is when we were out in the city, we were in, I could be wrong, but I feel like we were in a triple banger, meaning Kim, myself, and Cynthia were in little sections. It was either triple or double. And the reason I remember this is because all of our clothes didn't fit, because there's no real proper closet in a double banger. So you know how in the morning you would bring in all of the outfits for the day and all of the undergarments and everything, which was many pieces, and they would be hanging on my microwave and stuff. So you had this tiny little sofa, and you'd be under your clothes that were hanging above you, like trying to, peek out or whatever. And they also had our names on the door. And the reason that I remember that is because at one point I was sitting there, waiting as it is, and some guy comes banging on my door, and I open the door. I think it's an AD or whatever. It's just a person who wanted to know someone on the crew there. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he was all mad at me. And I was like, dude, this before we had security. Obviously we had nothing. We were just hanging out there with our names on the door, under our clothes.
What is on your door now?
Fake
name, or
I think our initials. Yeah, I think it's something slightly mysterious, but we have our security, so it doesn't really matter, right?
That's a little safer.
I know. It's funny to think of kind of the naivete and the kind of innocence, that we had back then at different times.
We were really under the radar. Look at the crowds that watch you all now. It's really something. It's so special to have come along and grown up with it.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy to think about. That's part of the reason I wanted to do the podcast, is that the journey has been incredible. And we share it with the fans, right? Because that they're part of the journey. And I wanted to bring it all together and let them hear our experience of it, because it's so much fun to think back. For so long we've been together.
I feel like a lot I don't know, maybe I'm not sure, but I feel like a lot of it is untold history. Like, I saw your clip on Instagram. You and Cynthia were talking about auditioning.
Yep.
Which I found fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if you've shared those stories from that early with people.
I don't think so. I mean, what's funny for us too, because obviously every person, I've had Michael Patrick on, I've had Sin on, now I'm having you on, which is great. I'm going to have Sarah on. Everyone has told me things that I haven't known, which, we've spent a lot of time together and I still don't know everything. So it's kind of fun and funny, So back to you. Let's get back to you. So you've come to New York. You've walked into Pat's store. How incredibly smart of you, number one. Number two, now Pat said, like, look at this script or look at this book or whatever it is, and you're on the show and no one knows the show. You guys are asking to borrow clothes. People are like, what is it? You're going to Bloomingdale's. You're going to Century 21, which I remember you guys kind of lived at Century 21.
Oh my God. People thought I worked there. I was there so they would ask me, where are the belts?
And I'm sure you knew where every single belt was.
I did. I could have gone through that store blindfolded. I told Pat I've spent more time in Century 21 than I did in my entire life anywhere.
I bet. And thankfully so, because
Oh my God.
how could you have ever done what you guys did without having Century 21?
People do not realize what a treasure trove it was. You know that little Vivian Westwood mini that had the little white fluffle bottom behind it
Yes.
was from Century 21?
Incredible. How could it not be there?
We loved going.
We do. I know we did. And we in our minds, we still do. Let me ask you this. So I remember just myself going to New York, somewhat wide-eyed, thinking, wow, I don't know how to dress like this. And, these women that this is kind of based on are so incredibly fashionable, and they're in the magazines as best dressed. And, thank goodness Sarah Jessica knows about this, right? And thank goodness Sarah Jessica had her relationships with designers that she had already been, engaged in before the show. And I remember just thinking, gosh, I've got to do what she does. So, like if someone eventually would invite us somewhere, I would go and I would try to make relationships, especially with the people that fit me, right? Which wasn't everyone, as we know, right? So like Michael Kors, the Ralph Lauren, Oscar de la Renta, which took years. And I was always scared, like, I don't want to be on Sarah Jessica's turf, but maybe could I possibly wear an Oscar? And I finally got to. But, those things for me were very much just following her lead, in terms of how do you make a relationship? Remember how we were so good about returning things? Like we never asked, not to return.
We were terrified to keep something too long.
Right. We were terrified.
I mean, that evolved into we were such hoarders in the end. Season 6, it was like, I dare you to come and pry this from our fingers.
And do you remember, this just came to my mind. Do you remember that time there was something, this is back when we really felt like we had to be like on the forefront. We had to get things like right off the runway, mostly for Sarah. I don't know if that was so true for Charlotte, but remember there was something that came off, was it McQueen, I think? Something that came off the runway and you had sent an assistant to the show in London or Paris, wherever it was, and they had to stand there waiting for it and fly back with it. Do you remember this?
I do.
Insane.
I don't remember what garment it was.
I feel like it was a butterfly looking kind of, caftan-y thing.
Yeah, that was from one of the movies where I accidentally returned something to a Vogue shoot that was happening in Tulum. And then I looked on the one-liner and saw, oh my God, she's got to come out of the bathroom in that dress tomorrow.
Wow.
And Melfi said, stick a PA on a plane. It's very cheap. Go down to Tulum and steal that dress back because I don't want to change the schedule. So we sent one, and that little PA thought it was the most glamorous thing she had ever done in her life. And she called me from the airport and said, I have the dress. May I, because it was turnaround, you went, came back, it was a roundy round. And she said, can I please order a margarita?
I hope you said yes.
I said, please do, but stay in the airport.
That's adorable. Okay, so let's go back in time. What do you remember? Because I'm rewatching, right? And as I'm rewatching, I'm just seeing touches of what's coming fashion-wise starting to enter the picture, right?
Okay.
So like Sarah, in the episode before this one, she is going out with that French guy and he leaves her $1,000 after they've spent the night together. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And she's got some good dresses. And I'm like, oh, Pat and Molly are doing their magic, right? It's like she has this beautiful silver dress and she's walking down Madison Avenue and she's talking about how she feels like she's floating and she lifts up off the sidewalk. Do you remember this?
No.
Literally no one remembers this. I texted Sarah. She doesn't remember it either. I don't know how we did it. Or why we did it exactly, but it's a great dress. And Cynthia remembered something that maybe you had to double that dress. Remember how it was always a bit of a drama for us to have to double something, which is very normal in film and TV. They would have to double or triple something. But for us, because we had, hopefully
one of a kind.
one of a kind from vintage or one of a kind fashion or whatever. Like,
Yes.
remember my Prada skirt? Pat told me that I couldn't wear it to meet Trey because we had to get 5 of them because I had to fall in the street. And I was like, we will wear it. We will wear it. And so
Right.
she had to call, all of Europe to find enough Prada lipstick skirts, for me to wear it. And she did. God bless her.
That is so relatable to like the no pantyhose. Like in television, you were supposed to be able, no problem, stunts. You could triple, quadruple something. And that was the first kind of department, I think, that came along and said, I'm sorry, Charlotte's in a vintage thing and you're going to have to do it once.
Right.
Like
right.
this was unheard of.
It was unheard of. And sometimes people were very unhappy with us because of it. But we felt like it was very, very important. And I think we were right. And,
I agree.
many, right? And many people have asked me this over the years. And I kind of feel embarrassed that I'm going to ask you now. But I will go for it. People have said that the fashion was its own character. Do you feel that that's true?
I always heard that coming along. There's a fourth character, the clothing. And then it started becoming there's a fourth character, the city.
Right.
But I have to agree on both of those.
Yeah.
There was a lot to dive into with the clothes. There was a lot to dive into with each of you. And there was a lot to experience in that setting, that location.
It's true. And that was, I think, part of the magic was that we were trying to be of the moment. We weren't trying to be all things for everyone at all times, like the Kansas comment from the HBO executive, but we were trying to be specifically there, and open to the influence of being there on the streets, which was so magical.
We did not ever shoot in a restaurant in Brooklyn. Okay. We were strictly of the moment Manhattan. They were, I remember those locations. I was just like, wow, this is so current. Most people haven't even gotten a table here yet. It was a badge of honor to be shooting there.
Definitely.
Darren is someone who gave our department so much information. And I think that helped set up the DNA of the clothing because he was like, Charlotte works, Charlotte doesn't work, Charlotte's address is this. And that is just a lot of information that oftentimes you don't get to go that deep.
That's true. That's so true. I mean, this particular episode that I'm on now, we see Charlotte, in the gallery. And I feel like it's the first time, and I'm like, oh, thank God we're in the gallery. Because in the beginning, that was a big, big part of Charlotte. Like almost every storyline is at least tangentially related to her art. Like, do you remember
much.
that I posed for this dude who paints the kind of Georgia O'Keeffe type paintings?
I was going to bring that up, and I was going to bring up you dressing like a man.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm not there yet. But isn't that great? Isn't that so great that we did that back then?
I remember people stressing out about that.
Do you?
Didn't you have a mustache on?
I did. I had a mustache. Judy Chin did it. And Judy, who is doing makeup for Sir Jessica and I, she would flip back and forth. Do you remember? She and Nikki. And she had just done Frida. She had done Salma Hayek and Frida. And she knew how to make like fake eyebrows. So she did bigger eyebrows on me and the mustache so that it looked really real and wasn't like, if you go to a, costume house and get a paste on. Yeah, it was very special. And also Charlotte was so, I did a lot of crazy stuff.
Oh boy, did you. But
Right?
the Georgia O'Keeffe, are you naked?
They don't show it, thank God in heaven, okay? But theoretically, yes. And then I tell the girls that I did it, right? And then they come to the gallery show and they're trying to guess which one I am. How mortifying, okay? Oh my gosh. But you know what? This is what I think when I watch it. I think so many things when I watch our young selves, but one thing I think is like we were all very game.
Absolutely.
I mean, I remember being very nervous, right? And concerned about like what is this show and how are we telling these stories, and is it from the female perspective? Like I felt like it was very important that it be from our perspective and not for the male gaze or something, for men, but something that would, be ringing true for women watching or empowering women who are watching or something like that. And I feel like we came there, but in the beginning it wasn't clear, right? But I think in a lot of ways that was also your guys' influence, that Pat's already showing Darren S&M, dominatrix stuff, because she's had such a strong point of view. And you guys were so incredibly integrated into the creative process.
That is another thing about Darren. So collaborative. And Michael Patrick King. Lots of information to departments, at least ours.
Right.
And very open to hearing an alternative idea.
Right. That's important.
People you work with are like, no, I want this, which is fine. It's your show. But those guys were like open for business.
I feel like we were just creating something that we felt like didn't exist. And I guess it didn't. I mean, it still doesn't, right? Except for us. There's really nothing to compare it to, which is also so strange to me.
It's really, talk about the planets aligning and being in the right place at the right time. I mean, that was incredible. I don't even know how Darren hooked up with, I don't know any of that.
I don't know either. I think they just went out in New York,
You had a relationship with Darren longer than any,
I did, but I didn't really know, I was already sober, right? So I wasn't going out, you know what I'm saying? And Darren, I feel like Darren has said that he just knew Candace from going out and he thought that she was smart and interesting and funny. And I think he read her column and, they were in that kind of very cool upper echelon of New York, not upper echelon, like a lot of money, but more like super cool version of that.
Yeah.
But this, many specifics I want to ask you about because I don't even know the answer to this. But okay. So what I remember meeting Sarah Jessica and her saying something about her Manolos that she had collected already. And this is in 1997, right? Pilot time. And I was just so impressed. I was like, what? You have how many? And they were all so carefully, in their dust bags in the boxes, beautifully stored. How did you remember the shoe trajectory of Carrie, at least, or the rest of us?
I will tell you what I remember, and then SJ can correct me, or I've romanticized it, but I remember Pat and SJ feeling like that label was kind of under the radar. Mm-hmm. So it was a good one to pluck, and really go for.
I think that's true.
Yeah, it was. I feel like it was. I don't think people downtown knew what a Manolo was. Is that possible?
I don't think I did.
Yeah. George, the guy who was Manolo's partner, I guess.
Yep.
He was really also a real collaborator and open for business and open for anything.
Right.
So that was a good company to, get involved with.
Absolutely. Do you remember, I don't know if you will, but in the beginning, I'm wearing some low kind of heels, like very average. And I remember it took you guys a while to get me in some high shoes. And I remember I had this pair of Manolo pumps, black pumps, that probably, I don't think they were 105 millimeter. I think they were probably 87 or something. And to me, they were really high. And I had to really practice walking in them and whatnot. And there's an episode coming up. I had one pair. And we just re-wore them a lot. And I had that episode. It hasn't happened yet, but when I'm with the widow in the graveyard, and it was pouring rain, bitter cold, bitter cold. And I'm wearing some kind of a almost vintage type dress. It might not have been vintage. I'm not sure.
I think it was.
Was it? And I want to have a shawl on, but then I wasn't supposed to have a shawl on. And I'm very cold, so I'm just desperate for anything to keep me warm. And I have to run up this hillside, this muddy hillside, and I basically ruined my Manolos. And I was so stressed about it. And they had to go to the shop and get redone because they were just soaked through with mud from this graveyard, And then At some point, you guys did a story with Vogue, I want to say, about the fashion, which at that point we were desperate for any coverage for the show of fashion or anything in general. Do you remember? We never said no to press in the beginning.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
don't remember
I don't
this?
remember. No.
So Pat gives them my Manolos for some reason and my little butterfly ruby necklace that I love so much. Do you remember my butterfly ruby necklace?
Yes.
Vintage. Loved that thing. She gave that to them and it never came back. And one of my Manolos never came back.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I was like, Pat Field, don't give my stuff away.
That's amazing that you only got one pair. That's really a sad story. And now the worst part of it, we beg you to bring shoes from LA to
I know. I was just unpacking my box. But it's okay, Molly. It's okay. I don't mind because it gives more money for you to buy new things.
Right. I was like, we still don't buy you shoes. You still bring them from.
No. It's all good because at this point, I think I have every color Manolo pump that exists. I feel like I do.
Thank
we don't
goodness.
need to keep buying them.
Did you have a favorite early, season 1 through? Did you have a favorite
Outfit?
look?
I mean, in the beginning, right, as I'm watching, I am really amazed at how completely normal my clothes are in first season, like so normal that it's shocking. Like I'm wearing these little suits and they're so funny and like young looking, I feel like, not very structured. I remember, and you tell me if you remember this, I don't know who made it, but I had a black long dress that I wear. It hasn't happened yet. It's coming. And Pat lent me her own Gucci shoes that had the heel made of metal.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Ow.
Yeah, and they've come back, but they are literally the most painful thing in the world. But I was going to wear those things because that point I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to live up to this vision that they have for the fashion and myself and everybody else. And yes, it's painful, but who cares? Like people still talk to me like, I don't know. I want to wear the heels, but I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, get ready because you will lose feeling in your feet at some point.
Right. There is numbness involved.
I mean, for me, at all times, my right foot is still numb. But you know what? It's worth it, you guys. I don't care. It was worth it.
I can watch an older episode, a past episode, and always watch Cynthia Nixon doing a walk and talk, and I know if her feet are hurting her.
It's true. I agree. And I can also tell with myself now, every once in a while, like I had to do looping the other day and I was like, oh man, I should have taken those socates off. Why am I trying to wear the socate?
Oh, ouch.
I know.
Okay, this is common knowledge, but when we recently shot on Fifth Avenue outside the jewelry store, we had that blue on. It's the blue Terry Mugler halter dress that you and Trey are out. Tiffany is one of my favorites. And when you recently are in blue again with Carrie, I was like, wow, what a great side by side.
And I have both those dresses at home.
Your hair is up in a bun, like you're very.
Yeah, we tried to do kind of a modern breakfast at Tiffany's, like not too done because it was the middle of the day. But also, do you remember? And I mean, I could talk to Molly about 20 million things, you guys. But do you remember when we used to shoot with people on the street, like Charles McDougall directed that Breakfast at Tiffany's the first time with Kyle, and he would send us down the street. Do you remember him?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely remember him.
Yeah. Can I tell you guys? There's a director on this current episode that I'm rewatching that I have no memory of. What? How could this be? His name is Michael Fielder.
Is that the guy that came to set one time in a stretcher because he had back and he directed from a stretcher? Do you remember that?
What?
Yeah. On the stage in a stretcher, had back problems. We'll have to look it up.
Michael Fields. I'm so sorry, Michael Fields, if you're out there. I don't remember you, and I don't know how that's possible, but this is a long time ago. But it was like random. When I looked down at the episode, I thought to myself, I can't remember this person.
I have no memory of him. What would Charles McDougall do with
Charles McDougall was very ambitious. And usually what would happen is we would go over budget and Melfi would start to look very stressed. And Michael Hill from HBO would come and sit on the set and glare at us, like, you guys are over. And Charles McDougall did not care, okay? He was just doing his artistry, and his artistry involved many interesting things. And for the Breakfast at Tiffany's, it involved having a long lens camera blocks away from us, blocks and blocks, where Kyle and I couldn't even see the camera. And then they'd give us a general, try to walk by this seam in the sidewalk. And, we were just walking and ad-libbing, talking, right? And with regular people, okay, regular New Yorkers walking down the street, walking down Fifth Avenue, not knowing, maybe we had to get a release from them after the fact. I have no idea how that worked, right? But they're just doing their business, and we're just trying to walk and hoping that we are on camera and having no idea. That's how amazingly ambitious he was, and it was so much fun. And then by the time we would get closer, we would be closer on camera, and then we would probably cut and do that shot where you can see us framed in the window. And then also my other really great Charles McDougall was in Bergdorf flipping the china over. Kyle and I are flipping the china over, and I think Bunny comes. But I think we flipped the china like 36 times.
Wow. Yeah, that would send you over budget. They wouldn't let you do that now, right?
Oh, I don't think so. Maybe they'd let Michael.
They might not. You wouldn't do it.
I would. What are you saying? I never say no.
I would think you would cut them off at like 12 or something.
I never have cut them off ever. Because you know why? You always feel like you can do it more better. You can do a better take. It depends. It depends what's happening that day, but I can't imagine saying no, I won't do another take. I can't imagine. I can't. Look, there's sometimes, for instance, my very, very lengthy birthday party, which we won't go into any more detail other than to say that I have a birthday coming. Charlotte has a birthday coming, I should say, on the show. It is an epic birthday party, okay, epic. And there were times where we would say to our lovely director, Anu, who we love so much, we'd be like, we think we got it. We just gently be like, we think we got that one. Because there were just scene after scene, take after take, so many characters.
You guys were trapped. Now, what about... But let me ask you something and tell me if this is really none of my business.
Go, baby.
What about when they're asking you over and over again in a bedroom scene?
Well, that's a different situation for sure. Yeah. And I do remember definitely stressy times way back about because we had so many different directors, right? And so many different points of view about what it was we were supposed to be doing. And definitely I had some stress. And as you remember, we were often filming in the middle of the Ever Love at Night, right? With no one around to help you. We didn't have intimacy coordinators back then. And if Michael Patrick wasn't there, you kind of had no, or Darren for that matter. And often Darren might have gone back to LA, or he might have been writing, or everyone might have gone home because it was 2 a.m.
Right, because it was 2.
Yeah, exactly. So you might just be by yourself. And I do remember, we haven't gotten there yet, but there is a scene where I ended up feeling so uncomfortable that I went and locked myself in my dressing room and called my manager back in LA to get some advice on what to do. Because I just didn't feel like the man director had the right idea for this particular sex scene. It was, I just remember there being a fair amount of anxiety about it all. Do you remember that time where I have to I'm trying to get Kyle's character to have sex with me? We have this troubled sex life in our marriage.
Right.
Do you remember? And I had to wear that sheer nightgown and basically, appeal to him to see me as a sexual being. God help me all. It makes me nervous just thinking about it, okay? Do you remember the stress about that?
Him?
Yeah. I'm trying to kind of emotionally and seductively appeal to him both, right? So it's kind of a difficult scene in that you have to be emotionally available as well as seductive. Not fake seductive. You know what I'm saying? And I remember really stressing about whether I should wear underwear under that. Because I think Pat wanted me not to. I know, it's so embarrassing to think about, right? I know, but I think that was another call to my manager, Dave. Like, Dave, Pat wants me not to wear any underwear, and you can see right through this thing, and I don't know what to do. And he was like, you got to wear some underwear. And I'm like, I do, right? I think I should wear some underwear, right?
I'm remembering now why she didn't,
Right.
because you in real life would not have.
It's true. She wasn't wrong.
No.
Yeah, she wasn't wrong. But I mean, you were trying to find the balance between, like, can I live with this? And, screenshots of this following me around or whatever, right?
Oh.
But do you remember the time too when Pat wanted to direct?
Oh, yeah.
She'd be like, I would just take an ice cube and run it down your leg. She had like some crazy ideas.
Yeah, she really, and I'll tell you, that carried on through Pat wanted to direct an Ugly Betty episode.
Wow.
Like, she wanted to, that visual mind of hers wanted to get out of the square box of the clothes.
Right. Well, she did. I mean, the clothes, for us at least, really permeated everything, almost to the point in the films where, we had to try to get rid of the conversations about the clothes almost. Like, it took center stage so much. And I feel like what people thought happened was that brands had come in and like imposed themselves on us, which was not in fact the case. I didn't feel. Did you feel that way?
I have never, ever, felt like that's an inappropriate thing. Even though it's free, it doesn't suit the character and we're going to put it there. No.
Right. No, it was us wanting these things and having to find a way to get them because we couldn't afford them on our budget. Because at a certain point, our budget would have exceeded all budgets ever made if we'd paid for everything. Like, it was crazy.
Handbags are frightening. The prices on handbags are like beyond. I know this is not popular, but the Abu Dhabi movie, the costume department, those are our famous costumes ever.
I know.
We loved everything that you guys wore. That strapless blue thing that I was sweating bullets to do this pin. I was so afraid to pin that on you.
You mean the like a bustier?
You and Cynthia are talking.
Yeah.
Serious scene at 5 a.m.
Yeah, when we're so cold that we've turned blue. Yes, I remember that. It was beautiful.
Those little things that stress you out. I had to call for the supervisor to come and help me. I just wanted it to be in the right place.
I mean, that's the thing. You guys, with your attention to detail, you are unmatched.
You guys there as well.
Well, thank you. But I mean, like, if you think about, you and Pat, and now you and Danny, obviously on it, just like that, and all of our dressers that we've ever had, and all of the supervisors, and the attention to, how things are made and how things are put together and how a bow is tied. You guys don't even want to be around when a bow needs to be tied, okay? I mean, the stress.
Careful, that's dangerous.
I know. I won't go into any more detail, but there's many people who have strong feelings on how a bow must be tied, okay? And you don't even want to get involved, right? You're just like, yeah, sure, do whatever, you guys do whatever. But I think, like, when some people they say things like, I think maybe when people come to work on our show after having seen it, they're kind of amazed what all goes into just a scene or a walk and talk or whatever. Because when you're watching it, hopefully you're not thinking about that, right? But then we know, like, the levels and levels of attention to detail that it takes to make it good.
Well, you of all people know what it's like to come for your fitting, and you always block out an entire day and lunch. And what is it like on when you go to
it's
other
sad,
fittings?
Molly.
What
it's
happens?
really sad. when you go to, if you've been with us, right, and then you get a job, when we're off, you're just like, oh God. For me, I'm like, can I go home and get my clothes? Because we're just spoiled rotten, okay? But the other thing that I think about when I think back, like we used to work, as you know, almost all night as the week went on, right, till sun rose on Saturday morning. But also sometimes because there was no time for a fitting. Because all of us were working so much more, we didn't have as many days to do an episode. So even if it would seem like maybe one of us wasn't in that episode as much, we were probably in the other episode being filmed, right? And sometimes we had multiple units. Yeah. So the only time to do a fitting was when you wrapped at night. And I remember going to a fitting at like 2 a.m. and thinking, this is insane.
Can you believe that?
No, but we did it.
Seems unfathomable to me. I remember that time that somebody, I think it was the supervisor, Mark, made up T-shirts because we had 4 units going.
Yes.
A, B, C, and D. That would be illegal now.
Do you think it would be? It was the only way we could finish, right? But that was when we were in Silver Cup and they had all those stages. So we had Sopranos Must Have Wrapped, right? So we were just by ourselves and we would just run from stage to stage to stage. And we'd be like, what do we have to do now? Oh yeah, we got to do a phone call, our half of a phone call. So we'd run over to B unit and do that. And then we'd run over to C unit and do like a insert of our hand picking up a glass or whatever it was. Like, oh my God, the insanity. But we were young. We had the energy, right?
We were in it to win it. It was exciting.
We were in it to win it. And it was exciting. And we loved it so much, as we still do.
It's still exciting. And it's still like, coming back to, and just like that was like back to summer camp.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It still is so much fun and so amazing that we even get to still play in the sandbox.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. So grateful.
Molly, I could talk to you forever, as you know. So will you come back and do another episode? Can we make this into 2?
Yeah.
Okay, good.